Welcome everyone to today's Twitter space here for Cake. Sorry, we're starting a bit tight here simply because I've had a really crazy busy schedule all day and I'm actually really jumping out of something, coming directly in, just organized my notes, making sure everything is aligned. Um, in general, we're going to discuss current market as always. Yeah, I think especially over the past week, Bitcoin been going really well. Altcoins behind. Going to reflect a bit on what could happen over the next couple of weeks till end of the year. Aside of that, I want to discuss obviously how Q3 went for us at Cake. I want to give a bit of a Q4 preview. We're gonna have Ben on the call, who's leading engineering for Cake, and obviously want to discuss a bit on features and products we have kind of integrated in Q3. And then want to give a bit of a preview Q4. Obviously, we have, for example, a fee reduction for coin swaps because Cake is integrating the DEX for that. We're going to have stocks coming to Cake. We're going to have loans coming to Cake. And so discuss that a bit with Ben. Yeah, and then obviously see if you have any questions. If you do, simply tweet at me. I have Twitter open. And if there are, Cake-related questions, I'm happy to answer them. So just question here and post it. I think that's good. Yeah, with that, let's dive in. Bitcoin right now, let me open the chart, has been really going strong. Main reason, and I just want to kind of keep a really cautious point on that, right? I kind of drilled this down last week already, and I just want to be sure that everyone is kind of on the same page here. I think all of crypto and at the moment mainly Bitcoin is hinging on one specific thing, and that is hopium towards an ETF approval a bit later this month. We have two types of ETFs here. We have future-based ETFs, Bitcoin futures-based, which in my opinion, have a higher chance of an approval because they can take a price feed from the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So there's some regulatory kind of framework there. And then obviously you have spot-based ETFs, which in my opinion have also a probability of being approved. Bloomberg had this interesting piece, I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, where they gave it a couple of probabilities on these ETFs. I think as a whole, there is a stronger chance of this ETF being approved either this month or next month than not being approved. But, right, and here's the very big but. First of all, many times such an approval is actually priced in already. So there may be a high chance that the closer we get to approval dates in the next 2 weeks, the more the price is pumping. And if you just look at a bit of the price, again, I would love to see Bitcoin price going at least over $60,000 if we see that this month. Which is not far out. I mean, we're talking about 5 to 7% from today's price, which is I mean, that could be a 1 hour pump, right? If we go over 60,000, I think any kind of scenario about a dead cat bounce or any kind of 2018 scenario is kind of squashed because 60,000 was the turnaround after the all-time high in April. It dipped down, and then in May we had this bounce back up to like 59 something thousand. So if we go above that from a chart technician kind of side, this is very strong. Don't forget, the chart only depicts what's happening in the real world. So if in the real world an ETF gets approved, there is a high chance that afterwards you see a stronger pump. But also interesting, look at the 2017 kind of run up back then that we had with, in general, kind of Bitcoin futures being approved. And what happened there was as soon as the Bitcoin futures were approved, we had a run up. As soon as the Bitcoin futures actually started in January 2018, you all know the story, crypto actually crashed. So it could be a similar scenario here that we have a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event in the positive kind of sense that the Bitcoin ETF gets approved. So again, from all the scenarios that we see, the one that I see the most likely this year is we do see an approval end of October, beginning of November of an Bitcoin futures-based ETF. I do see the price being bullish around that and after that, especially all the way until December. This is no financial advice. I am not from the future. This is purely probability based. I do see a chance of Bitcoin hitting 100,000 this year if all these things kind of fall in place. And so that is kind of the first kind of scenario here. That is obviously the bullish one, right? It's very difficult then to kind of foresee how long is this market going to rally. Do we see a setback? Do we see a rally all the way through? Do we see suddenly FOMO hitting in and institutions and other countries coming in and then the price rallying to whatever stock to flow says 288,000? I don't know. But I just want to kind of draw a similarity from let's just kind of go back here. What happened? Where were we at this kind of time in the cycle in 2017? Let me just jump back. 2017. So October-ish, just as an example, right? October-ish, 2017. So around this time, we were at around $5,000. So yeah, if we now say we are about 10 times as much, right? Just as a comparison, we were about 10 times as much. So back then we went to roughly 20,000. So if we see a same kind of FOMO pump, then we would be at 200,000 when the peak hits. Again, who knows, right? And maybe 200,000 sound absolutely bonkers by Christmas, but Bitcoin can be extremely bonkers in both directions, right? So crypto in general. So just kind of keep this in mind. I'm not sure if we see 200. I think that would be a bullish surprise to me. 100K, I think, is possible, especially if any of those ETFs gets approved. That's the first thing. Okay, so let's flip this around. I think a lot of things, though, could turn the market around. Because at this very moment, we actually only have one thing that actually really keeps the flame going, and that is the hope for this Bitcoin ETF. So keep that in mind. I think that's an important point to mention. So as soon as hope of that, just the hope, kind of flickers away, this could pull the plug on the price. Keep that in mind. I think that's important. I think many people tend to forget that it's just about that hope. It's not even actual probabilities. It's not even SEC saying anything. It's just the hope going away. This could pull the plug relatively fast. And sometimes the line between hope and fear, right, is actually very, very slim, right? Fear is just being scared of something. Hoping is being positively drawn towards something. But most of the time, hope and fear are it's not rational most of the time, right? Most of the time, it's very emotional. So just keep that in mind, right? Very easy to flip. That's the first thing. The second thing, in case there are actually strong rejections now over the next 6 weeks, I mean, this could really spiral. So now we're not even like, yes, hope dies last, but in that case, it may actually die relatively fast. And then there's, to me, from the cycle that we're in, not much that we have left. What are the things that could really make it bullish? Let's kind of brainstorm here. What could make the entire market bullish is obviously a large tech company coming in. Unlikely, possible, unlikely. A significant country coming in. Unlikely, possible, still unlikely. Again, I'm not talking about, like, nothing against El Salvador, but I mentioned this last time. I mean, the kind of coins or the money that El Salvador buys, that's what individuals that are wealthy are buying, right? So it's not like significant. Also, the statement they're making is not significant on a global scale. If one of the stronger economic countries would do that, I think that would be a key statement. I doubt it, because I still think for most countries, there's still more to lose when they adopt Bitcoin than there is to gain at this very stage. In a couple of years, this may flip, but I think right now it is still a bit different. So yeah, all these things, I don't know. What would have to happen to the economy for there to be a massive run up in Bitcoin? It would have to be probably a lot of money printing. And we can talk about inflation, but there would have to be a lot of money printing. And I'm just not sure from any kind of signal that I see that a lot of money printing is what's going to occur. I think we see inflation pretty much all over the place. Keep one thing in mind. If you want to make a bet on inflation today, you need to make a bet on the future, right? Not so much on the past. So you're not betting on the prices increased over the last 18 months. Yeah, they did. Why? Because like M2 went up by like 25-30%. The question is it going to go up by 25-30% over the next 18 months? That's the bet you have to make. You look at the traditional inflation kind of markets, especially gold. So let's not look at the consumer price index because that's manipulated like shit. It's like crazy. So not look at that. Look at gold or look at precious metals. They are down year to date, right? Gold is down. So the typical inflation predictor, gold, which has been pumping like crazy last year, is actually down year to date. So the big money in gold is actually predicting that there may not be inflation. Now you can make, especially crypto people are going to turn the switch here and say, that's just because like people are shifting away from physical gold into digital gold, aka Bitcoin. And while I actually do agree with that, that still doesn't agree, doesn't make a statement on why isn't there money flowing into gold, and we just don't see money flowing into gold. And I do think it actually has to do with certain statements the SEC has made, the Fed has made, that well, of course, I get it that many people call like this baloney that like bankers all around the world are calling for a bit of a restriction and tapering and not printing more money because of the inflation. But I do see that there are actually tendencies that this inflation has a high chance, I'm not saying guaranteed, has a high chance of being transitory and actually going away. And then to me, like looking at the entire investment ecosystem, obviously that's not going to be so strong for non-cash flowing assets like Bitcoin in a sense, because what you want in Bitcoin is you obviously want a lot of money printing because then there's a lot more free money around. So keep that a bit in mind, that I'm not sure that Bitcoin would benefit from the entire kind of general ecosystem. I also am very cautious in believing that a risk of a risk on asset like Bitcoin, risk on means generally speaking, people invest in Bitcoin, especially the large kind of pools of money invest in Bitcoin rather when they want to take up more volatility, not less volatility. Right? Bitcoin is a more volatile asset. So as soon as people want to have less volatility, generally speaking, they remove money from Bitcoin. And so I'm not sure if going forward with some of the uncertainties around less money printing, maybe some volatility on the stock market, I'm not sure if other investors and other funds are actually more likely to invest money into a very volatile asset as crypto. So having all that said, right? Again, these are not black and white solutions. They all have shades, and that's the key thing as an investor, right? You never want to think in a yes no. You always want to think in probabilities. You want to take in a little bit more of that, a little bit less of that. I think that's a key kind of thinking as a smart investor. So kind of putting all these things into place, I think, and also keep one thing in mind: just because you have only one thing going for it doesn't mean that one thing going for it is worse than having five things going for it. No, if one thing going for it is extremely strong, it's going to have a very strong effect on the price. And so at the moment it does, right? And at the moment, this entire ETF story has a very strong thing going for it. But I'm just not seeing many other things going for crypto as a whole in this very moment. Maybe in 3 months this changes, but that's just at this very moment. So yeah, the ETF story is really important. And like things going against it, right, are obviously on the one hand the story dying off, obviously the entire markets being shaky, and we see this. I mean, stock markets have been stock markets September very shaky market. Generally speaking, stock markets in Q4 are generally a bit more supportive. So this will be positive. Um, yeah, but like, and then obviously we have all those like super bearish scenarios, like swan ideas. Like we have the Tether story that, again, I mean, not Bloomberg broke this story. I mentioned this last week a bit. I don't see any new news in there, right? There's no new info in there. I hope that this Tether stuff doesn't um uh, generate new information for yourself. But it's definitely something to kind of consider and discount a bit on for yourself. I think that's key. I think if you write the Tether stuff off as FUD, I think you're making the same mistake as if you're saying, oh, this is like completely going to destroy crypto. So both opinions, again, on the very extreme here, right? Wrong. I think the truth always lies in the middle. The truth lies somewhere in, yeah, Tether is probably not entirely backed. So there's some risk attached to it, but is the risk that it's gonna like destroy the entire market? Probably also not. It's somewhere in the middle, right? So keep these things a bit in mind here. Yeah, but as a whole, I think if I would have to put probabilities on, I think we have a probably 2 to 1, 3 to 1 probability for Bitcoin hitting an all-time 100,000 this quarter rather than hitting a new annual low, so dipping below the 29,000. So yeah, these are just kind of the two general kind of ecosystems. And I think also at the moment, and we see this on Cake as well, and with that general kind of outlook, I want to put it a bit towards Cake. We see this on Cake. We see that especially the hodlers, the people going for cash flow have been benefiting greatly. The ones that are not like trading in and out all the time, trying to catch something, trying to get lucky. We've seen this on the platform, right? And I think that's a very, very strong sign. People on Cake have been like reflecting on Q3, not in dollar totals, because dollars in dollar total always depends a bit on what the crypto price actually is, but in actual coin numbers, we have never paid more in total coin numbers as rewards as in Q3. Obviously, we have never had as many customers as we've had in Q3. We've been growing like crazy. We've been adding more and more customer funds to the platform. We have never paid more in rewards in coin numbers. In dollar numbers, it's pretty similar to Q2, but that is a big difference because in Q2 the dollar prices were just way higher as an average than in Q3. Just because also the entire April-May story, obviously, big difference from prices as a whole here. But yeah, so definitely quite exciting to kind of reflect on that and see that a bit. Also, the kind of growth for us is always interesting to see on when do people like get worried with exchanges, when do numbers on exchanges kind of drop or go down. For us, obviously, as a hodling platform, also from the customer side of view, also for us as a business, right? We are a very recurring business. If a customer comes to us and sees the benefits that we offer at Cake, it's very likely the customer stays. There's very little upside for a customer to stop using Cake unless that person really wants to get out of crypto. But other than that, that doesn't make much sense not to use Cake because, I mean, we deliver on what we say we're doing. And so we see this, right? We have a lot of recurring business, a lot of recurring customers. Where on exchanges, it's many times actually a bit of the opposite. You get attracted to the trading because you think you can get rich quick, and then suddenly you realize, oh my goodness, I am actually just losing money there. And so many times on exchanges, a bit of the opposite way. So we've seen this in Q3 tremendously, where people have been building the trust and the usability. So that was really good. Since we actually have u-zyn and Ben on today, which is cool, I would love to see any kind of reflection more from a tech product side. Features. I think Q3 was a very hefty kind of engineering quarter where we had to lay a lot of the groundwork for things that are coming out now in Q4. But what are things that were mainly going on in Q3? Ben, u-zyn, do you want to kind of share a bit of your experiences, your kind of reflection on the past quarter?
All right, cool. Yeah, maybe I'll go and then yeah, so yeah, on the engineering side, the team has been extremely busy. We are building up for the next product launches to come. I think Ben can talk a bit more on that. And then on the system side, on the process side and everything, we have done so many things to improve the overall safety of the system, safety of the crypto, safety of everything, and making sure the processes and all that are in place. A lot of things are you can feel also on the site if you remember back in like Q1 where we were struggling with some of the like servers going down, and because there's some campaign that runs and then it would just kill off the server because the load was high and all that. But all that's now gone away. Like the servers now automatically scale, and we have security engineer in our team now as well that's doing all sorts of probing to make sure everything is safe. Security wise as well. And what's coming up also, we're gonna be launching a security bug bounty program as well. I mean, we do have it right now, it's just unannounced, but we're gonna make it even more official. So beyond the product side, a lot of things happening in the background. It's all to make our website and our services more and more secure, more and more reliable, to make sure that everything is safe and everything's properly audited, and make sure everything's secure. Yeah, Ben, maybe you can cover it on product side.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, sure. Let me dive into some details here. I also needed to reflect a little bit on Q3 just now, what we did. Maybe I start with the problem and then the solution. Okay, one problem or one issue we had is how do we reward our like super loyal customers? How do we give them good benefits? We had some old program that was related to the freezer, but in Q3 we like completely revamped this VIP experience. This confectionery we have on Cake. We have a lot more. Actually, we have a lot more to come as well. You can see on our website that some things are still in the works. But I think this tier-based system, I think a lot of customers happy about it. That was a big part. Then also very, very important to mention is our mobile app. We launched this, I think, end of Q2, and then Q3 we really put a lot of work into to improve the experience there. Kind of ahead of our official release now. The UI is improved much more. There's a little bit of different structure on the UI side compared to our desktop version. Big shout out to the mobile app team for doing a very strong Q3. It's Hans and Vadim, Regina, Sean. Yeah, really good job. Then the landing page. By landing page, I mean the actual cakedefi.com one. Our website is also revamped in Q3, and mostly Trung did a fantastic job there. To really give. If you remember the old landing page, it was a little bit a copy of what we had in our desktop version, and now I think when you go to cakedefi.com, you have a much better introduction what Cake DeFi is and what you can do, and how you actually what you have as funds and how do you want to invest them. Yeah, really good introduction. Then another super major one was the DeFi chain staking freezer. That means as a lot of our users know, the DeFi chain, our partner, they rolled out these 2x and 1.5x rewards on DeFi chain staking, and Cape also incorporated that, and was actually really lots of engineering work on our side, and big feature for Q3. Then we had lots of small things, lots of small improvements. For example, simple mode for liquidity mining. You can like one click yourself from example only Bitcoin into our liquidity mining product on Cake. Just a few things to improve the user experience, which is always an ongoing task for us, also in the future. And lots of Q3 was also a quarter of lots of promotions. For example, the Olympics promotion we had was super successful. Let me know if you want to highlight something else.
We have a little bit of technical difficulties with, I think Julian's microphone is not working properly right now. So maybe if either of you, u-zyn or Ben, want to share something while we look into the microphone issue.
Yeah, I mean, Ben shared a lot of the product updates. I mean, at the same time as well, like the team, Julian especially, along with the team as well, we're looking at what's happening on the DeFi ecosystem, what's happening on the NFT space. We are looking into all these new possibilities as well, to come up with ideas on how we can incorporate this into Cake as future products and future offerings for our users. So like Cake is gonna integrate more and more into other like DeFi blockchains as well, and like more coins, more services, and exploring potential of even NFTs right now. Still drafting the idea, still in the early stage, but we're definitely looking into what's happening in the space and exploring to see if we can work something out that's going to be interesting for our users. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think my mic works again. I hope at least you can hear me. I don't know. I had to rejoin the entire space. For some reason I couldn't. My mic wasn't recognized anymore. Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing a bit there, Ben, u-zyn. Fabio, do you want to share which recent? I mean, it was kind of the change over between Q3 and Q4, and before we do a bit of a preview on some features on Q4, we changed, especially at the end of the quarter, a bit of how we display, not necessarily anything on the actual process, but the way we display the withdrawals on our website and how we communicate them on the website. Do you want to share that a bit? Also, the flow on some of the feedback that you've gotten from the community, how then this was communicated to the team, the decisions that kind of went in there, and now how the customers can see that for a very clear kind of way how they can see the withdrawals, and what was the feedback since then? Do you want to share that a bit?
Yeah, sure. As most of you already seen, at least the ones that already made a withdrawal within the last 7 days, we revamped the withdrawal model. So it's actually on the back end, how we process everything, nothing changed. So Cake values security more than speed. This means we really take our time to make sure that nothing happens. And I think, I hope I don't say something that is not true, but I'm quite certain that it is true. We never lost a single cent of customer funds so far. And we kind of want to keep it that way. So it means when you open the withdrawal module, we clearly display at the time of your withdrawal when the absolute maximum point will be when you actually will receive your funds. Now, important to note is we have clear statistics on this. 90% of all withdrawals are actually processed within 1 hour. There is a certain amount, around 10%, that takes a little bit longer, and this is due to manual checks. And it's really important also to know that lots of funds, or most of the funds at Cakes, are actually in cold storage and signed with multisig. So that means every time a huge withdrawal is made, there is multiple employees needing to signing that transaction. So this is the security aspect of it. And this takes some time. And this is also because we want to be 100% sure that things like social engineering or hacks to prevent those. And I think we're doing an amazing job at this. So the new withdrawal model gives you an absolute certainty when the latest time will be that you will receive your funds, and display it with the exact date and time. Most of the time, like chances are 90% and above, you receive your funds earlier. This is important to understand. A few people they thought, okay, we take even more time right now, but this is not the case. On the back end, nothing changed. We just adjusted how we are displaying this because, of course, for the customer, it's really important to know what is actually going on in the back end.
Yeah, cool. I think that's really important. Many times people were just a bit confused on the actual length rather than the exact certainty. And I think that's, I think that was a really easy fix at the end, but that has some, and it really has some big impact. And I also got some feedback already from customers who said, oh yeah, now at least I know exactly, and now they can really pinpoint when is it going to happen, and so that's fine. Okay, cool. Are there any other reflections that we want to make on Q3? Maybe u-zyn, do you want to share a bit on how many nodes you're currently spinning up for the freezer? I only see it on Slack constantly. I mean, just today, you're already I think spinning up another 30 nodes. Do you want to share a bit on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Our freezer program has been wildly successful and very well accepted. We are constantly seeing more and more people freezing more funds, like both Dash and DFI, especially DFI. We're seeing a lot of freezing actions from our users, and we constantly as the rewards are coming in, as users are pledging for 10-year nodes, we always have to spin it up to keep up with the demand. So like as we speak, I just spin up 30 more because that's the demand is coming in as we speak, and we're running out of nodes to sell. These are also customers' fund coming in, so we have to spin up so that we have our like a little bit of float to keep up with the demand. I mean, it's really the demand hasn't slowed down much since the launch. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, thanks for the support.
Yeah, and I really want to highlight here, thanks for the trust and all the support we get from you as customers and the community. There are always these, and maybe let me take 2 minutes and just address one question that we always get: what happens if Cake doesn't exist over the next 10 years? First of all, I think the probability of that is like tiny. And second of all, we actually, like, man, this was such a hassle that, like, I had to go through and u-zyn had to go through and all this, like, in making sure for all the backups and all the systems from like other employees are actually in place. So even in this super unlikely scenario that Cake wouldn't be there in 10 years, that lawyers would have access to all the locks basically, and could then unlock those funds for you. So I just want to highlight that from our end, sustainability in the company is in place. You have my full assurance on that. So yeah, that's a question I get every once in a while. So I just want to address that here.
Yeah, thanks, Julian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to fill up a bit on that, like we, like on the lawyer side, also, it's part of the process requirement is that we have different lawyers. So like Julian has his and I have mine. So like the lawyers cannot collude and to take out the funds as well. So it's only that the worst case happen to us, then they get access to the fund to return it to our customers. So all of that process is set in place. This is what I talk about. Like a lot of these processes are in place for the last 2 quarters or so. We have been set up so many of these processes in place for us to grow much bigger in the future, and for us to make sure that all of safety and all that is not compromised.
Yep. Every once in a while, I see someone requesting to talk. On the Cake Twitter Spaces, we don't only have employees talk. If you have any questions, then just simply tweet at me and I'll include that question in the various discussions. So a lot of your questions right now are either on price predictions or on altcoins or on features that are coming up. So we're going to address those in the next 30 minutes. I see them. I'm not going to jump into every single question right away because otherwise it would be a bit too disruptive. Yeah, so cool. Are there any other reflections on Q3? Otherwise, I would shift it a bit forward to Q4. Obviously, a lot of questions on on various things there, stocks, loans, and so on. But is there anything that we need to reflect on? If not, then let me shift it over. Cool. I think going a bit chronological here, we see. I think we have a couple of small things, couple of major things. I want to address pretty much as many as possible that we are very certain that they're going to get launched before Christmas. At the moment, I see probably 4. I see a bit of a more integration to the DeFi space for Cake. That is integrating DEXs for Cake, so for Cake to be a purely custodial solution, interfacing with the blockchain, and that is going to have a lot of benefits for the customer. We're going to address those. I want to talk about the learn and earn. Maybe Fabio can share a bit about that. We're going to talk about stocks coming to Cake. That's definitely one. And then we're going to discuss the one about taking loans on Cake. I think these are the 4 main things. I don't think any of those should be a surprise. I think most of you heard about those things or we discussed those. I think I'm not missing anything of the major ones. Otherwise, maybe then u-zyn, you just want to jump in if there's a major one that we're really certain about bringing in until Christmas. But yeah, kind of let's discuss one. I'll take the first one and then we kind of go a bit down the rabbit hole. So one of the main ones, obviously for us, and let me talk a bit about the philosophy here, right? For me, with all the experience I had in crypto and blockchain, especially in my past company, and then obviously now and how I see the space developing, and also with all the experience u-zyn had, and I mean, u-zyn has been in the space even longer than me. It's been in now for I think 11 years, almost beginning of 2010, end of 2009, so super long time. And u-zyn had an exchange in Singapore before, so like all these experiences, I just see the space going forward is gonna go in either two ways. It's either gonna go in the super hyper regulated banking kind of route space, or and that's mainly going to be the exchanges. So if you ask me for one prediction, I think 99% of all the exchanges that want to be legit in the next 3 years will have to go more into a banking route rather than anything else. I think that's going to happen for pretty much all the exchanges, Coinbase leading the way, and literally all the other exchanges kind of having to follow suit. So that's the first one. The second one is you're going to have a lot of players in that space who are not exchanges, who offer a very specific service, and they're going to be more on a very specific regulation, and they're going to be regulated, and there's going to be an oversight on that specific portion, but not on like the entire kind of licensing scheme. And I just think these are the two ways kind of going forward. I don't think the way that 99% of the companies today are going, which is let's just offer whatever, and let's ask for forgiveness later, and let's just go for it, and we just do whatever, and then if the regulator comes in, we just kind of try and wiggle and do stuff around. And I mean, it's a typical the typical Binance kind of route, and Binance, in my opinion, did really well over the past 4 years in that, and I think it was a really good route for the past 4 years. But I think the next 4 years are going to be very different, and I think you will either have to make a clear decision in which route you're going to go, what's the regulation that you need, or are you going to go very application specific? And so the route I see for Cake is that Cake is a way more of a custodial wallet than anything else. So we want to offer as a platform access to all kinds of DeFi services, but we don't want to offer those services. We don't want to be an exchange. We don't want to offer any of those services ourselves. We just want to be a super user-friendly access point into all these services. And from a regulatory standpoint, just to also make this clear to you, this means that, and that's in the process that we're in, we want to be audited, that we actually, not only you can see it on the blockchain that we actually have those funds, we want to be audited from an external partner that verifies that we have those funds, that all our internal flows, the security, the upside, all the compliance, all the regulatory framework is in place, and we're doing all this super solid. But it doesn't mean that we fall under the same regulation as exchanges or as derivative platforms or as futures platforms. And in my opinion, that's going to give us an insane kind of head start in the speed that we're going to be able to move, simply because we don't drag a lot of the baggage with us that, in my opinion, a lot of these other platforms drag with us. And so we want to go this route where we basically integrate with a lot of these services. And so you see this on pretty much any of the services that we offer. We offer a fiat on-ramp, but we don't provide it ourselves. We actually have partners who do that. Staking, it's not done by us, it's actually done by the blockchain. Lending, it's done by someone else, not us. Liquidity mining, same thing, right? Stocks, same thing. Whatever we're going to integrate in the future, we look for various blockchains, various interfaces that we can do this with. And so one of those things is also obviously the exchange function. And this exchange function has always been a very tricky part from a regulatory standpoint. And so the way we want to do that going forward is we would love to integrate more and more and more. Now, at the beginning, we're going to be testing that, so we're not really sure that this is going to work like super well. That's why we're really cautious. At first, there's always some technical hurdles and obviously some user interface hurdles, but we want to just be sure that this works really smooth. So right now we're more like testing all this, and there's like a step-by-step kind of rollout. So we haven't really decided if this is really going to work. Maybe we're not going to be able to do it this route, but hopefully we are. But the plan here is to integrate external decentralized exchanges and use them as an interface for our customers to use, so they can then exchange funds, but not via Cake, but actually via those services. And so the very first one that we're going to integrate is the DeFi chain DEX. And it's the first kind of thing that you should see as a customer is actually two things. First of all, that a swap might not be instant. It may have a small delay, especially if you're trying to swap a larger volume. It might take a couple of minutes, simply because it actually goes via the DEX, right? So if you're trying to do millions of dollars, it's definitely going to take a longer time versus doing $50. And the other thing is, we are going to reduce the fees by a lot. We're going to actually we're going to reduce it to 0.5%. So it's, I think at the moment it was at 5% I think it was at 5%. So now, because it was done manually, now it's going to go down because it's going to be done with the DEX, and the fee is going to be reduced dramatically. So that was one of the feedbacks. If I look at Reddit or I look at Telegram and I see a lot of feedback, a lot of people were like, hey, why are the fees so high? Yes, that's going to go away. And now it's only going to be 0.5%. So that's going to get integrated by the end of October. So yeah, step-by-step kind of process. So that's the first thing that you should see. And then obviously the second thing you should see in that sense is that, yeah, when you actually use it, that you're going to actually go to a third party, and that there may be a small time delay when you're actually doing the swap. Yeah, so that's kind of the first thing there. u-zyn, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I don't want to add a bit as well. So Julian covered a lot on the why we're doing it that way. I just want to add a bit of perspective as well on the technical side. So when we want to be the custodian wallet, like we want to integrate a feature like DEX, for example, like ideally we want to make sure that that's executed immediately, which means that if a user wants to swap from one coin to another, it should be executed immediately on chain. But on the safety part of it, it's going to be tricky, because if we are able to do that immediately, it means that the website or the server has access to all customers' funds on the system itself, and that's not good for fund safety. So for that, there are two ways to do it. So one is we use a hot wallet mechanism where we only have a small portion of fund available on the system, so they can be executed immediately. And for the larger sum, it's going to go through the manual multi-sig approach again, just like withdrawal, to make sure funds are safe. Or there's another approach to that, which is to use a multi-sig approach, which means that the server has access to all the funds, but only has one part of the key. So the other key will mean that the customer will then need to sign that key. So the user will need to sign that key. That both approach are fine. So one is that we will sign all of it, but you only have access to a hard wallet fund, only a small amount, and the larger amount will require some delays for us to process it manually. Or if a multi-sig, that's good, but the downside is that we have to deal with the recoverability of the fund. So if Cake is regulated as a custodian, and Cake does not have access to that fund, let's say a user loses key for some reason, and we only have one part of the key. So what will then happen to us, because we are technically a custody of the fund. So if we can't recover that, then that's another problem. So we have to deal with all these solutions and all these ideas and all these technical limitations to bring the best solutions to the users in a way that it doesn't compromise the security. So the launch with DEX that we're gonna be seeing over the next couple of weeks, you will see the first iteration of it, and you will see where it comes from, and there's some limitation that you can do and you cannot do. But all of that is an evolution for us to figure out, for us as well to build the best way for our customer, for our users to bring in more DeFi services to Cake. I mean, our goal is to be the ultimate custody, and users can do whatever they want on the blockchain and on DeFi directly through Cake in the most safest manner possible.
Cool. Thanks for adding that, u-zyn. That's great. Yeah, so that is kind of the first things that you should be seeing over the next couple of weeks. Then another one is going to be a bit of a promo as well, something especially that's going to help people learn a bit about Cake, about our services, about everything that we do, and that's going to be that learn and earn kind of thing. Fabio, I know you were also involved in that a bit from the community side. Do you want to share a few of the things there, a few of the kind of teasers or kind of pinpoints?
Yeah. Most of you may already know this concept, like Coinbase has it, CoinMarketCap has it, where you participate in a small, let's call it mini lecture, and then take a quiz. And if your answers are correct, you can earn small rewards. And Cake will offer a similar kind of experience. We initially starting with a quiz surrounding DeFi chain, where users can learn what kind of use case that, how it works, and can like dabble a little bit with some basic knowledge, and they are incentivized actually to learn a bit more. At a later stage, there's also a plan to include other blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, where you can also answer a quiz and earn rewards. And for a lot of users, it's probably most of you that are here on Twitter, that are listening to these kinds of spaces, you're already in the crypto space and you already know your way around. But for most people, and especially the people that may join the last few months or this year, they still have a lot of learning to do. It's a deep space. Like I know u-zyn is in the space for 10 years. I think Julian is in the space for six years or so. Myself, I joined in 2015, and every day you learn new stuff, and it's such a deep rabbit hole. And we just want to make the entry a little bit easier, that users can experience and learn about different blockchains and the concept of decentralized finance in an easy and approachable way.
Yep, that's key, and yep, I think that's going to be a nice one. Yeah, I expect that also end of October, beginning of November. So that's kind of the timelines and that. So over the next months, right? Yeah, first we really want to integrate the DEX. Then that's going to be the focus. So I think a bit of a step by the way. Next one that would get launched afterwards are stocks. Obviously, the timeline on that depends a lot on DeFi chain itself, because that's going to be the first stocks that we want to integrate. Later on next year, we're going to look at other blockchains as well, but that's going to be the first one. Maybe first question that I get from a lot of customers, and I don't know, u-zyn, maybe you want to answer that. I don't know. Maybe one of you, either Ben or u-zyn, one of you take stocks, the other one take loans. I don't know which way you want to go or which way you want to do it. I'll leave it up to you. I don't know. Any preference?
I'll let u-zyn do both, and then I can talk a bit of the smaller stuff on Cake.
Okay, good. Fair. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, I think very first question, u-zyn, a lot of people always ask, how much later than DeFi chain are you going to be able to buy stocks on Cake? What's the answer here?
It should, looking at the timeline of both projects, it does look like it's gonna be coincide at the same time. So Cake team has started to work on the stocks integration, and the DeFi chain team. It's now, I mean, it's not a DeFi chain talk right now, but DeFi chain team is working hard on the upgrade and also on the client side. So it does look like when DeFi chain has it on the client side, Cake should be having it already on Cake side. So it should be coinciding. So same time.
Cool. What's going to be the user experience for the customer on for the customers on Cake, buying stocks and then getting a return on that?
Yeah, so on Cake, user will be able to get into stocks through DEX. So user will be able to buy or sell stocks directly through DEX. And once they acquire a stock, a user can then put into liquidity mining with stock as well. And the reward, well, we're not sure because it all depends on DeFi chain side, and also on DeFi chain side, it depends on ticker council as well to decide eventually. But initially, you know, when the liquidity is small, we're going to be looking at really high interest for that. It could be even up to thousands %, probably on the first few days when users are still coming in to supply liquidity. Yeah.
Hard fork for DeFi chain, I think, is planned beginning of November, end of October, beginning of November, plus minus, right? I mean, look, there's always uncertainty around this, and then give it a couple of weeks until after that. So, I mean, and I think an aggressive kind of timeline would be to have stocks within November. I think that would be a dream come true for the entire team for the timeline. But again, a lot of it has to do actually with the timeline on DeFi chain. Do you see this realistic, or is this completely unrealistic?
No, I think that's realistic. The team started to work on that. It also depends on the DeFi chain side as well. For now, I think both teams are working on pretty similar timeline. Both are looking to be having it in sometime in November, so that's looking pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, and always remember, within November means 30th of November, not the 1st of November, because I know the messages that I'm gonna get. You said November, and yeah, so end of November always is key. Cool. And then I think another one that's gonna be major is obviously taking out loans. Maybe just from my side, a bit of a general kind of idea. I mentioned this last time, but I think it's really important to understand that going forward. I believe, and it's actually not only I, but a lot of people, especially if you look at more wealthy individuals, they have understood that concept for a very long time. Elon Musk, I mentioned this, I think last time on the Twitter space 2 weeks ago, got a bit under fire for always taking out a loan against his stock, so never actually selling his stock, thereby not having to pay taxes until his options actually come to a full deadline and he actually has to exercise them, and then he actually has to pay taxes. But until that point, he has the possibility to take out a loan against his assets, in this case his stocks, and thereby live off these assets, live off the loan. In crypto, this concept would also exist, but it's not as prevalent yet. I think some companies are dabbling into it. Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, he has been really focusing on that and kind of saying, hey, look, one of the key killer features in the future is going to be that you don't have to sell your Bitcoins or sell your coins. You basically take a loan against them. So you have your Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin is worth $50,000, and I don't know, you could take out a loan for 20% of it. Let's just make a sense. So you could take out $10,000 and you can spend that. And the bet is that Bitcoin goes up more than the interest payments that you have to make. Obviously, Elon also shared that in his Recode talk with Kara Swisher, where he said, yeah, this could also bite you in the ass if there's a bear market. Obviously, it kind of goes the other way. Sure, that's why you have to be careful in how much money you take out for your loan. But like if you keep the collateralization level super high and the loan level is low, then it's fine. It's unlikely that Bitcoin dumps by 90%, for example, right? So, but that's kind of the theory behind it. And so, yeah, we want to offer that exact same concept of Cake, because at Cake, it's actually even cooler because actually the yield you're getting could completely not even compensate for the interest. It could actually even outperform it, right? So, this makes it even more juicy from a general idea. Yeah, and u-zyn, I don't know, do you want to share a bit on the product experience there for the customer? Do you have a bit of a timeline there? Obviously, it's the last point we're discussing, so it's going to come even after stocks, but do you want to share a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so for the loan part, just want to be clear as well that Cake, it's not directly offering loans, but so what Cake is staying true to our principle that we're trying to provide DeFi services to our users. So on this end, Cake is going to be integrating with DeFi chains loan, where Cake users will be able to lock up DeFi, Bitcoin, and other coins that eventually DeFi chain is going to support. You can lock it up, and then you can then take out USD, DUSD loan from it. So you can take it out and you can swap it into stocks token to do liquidity mining, or you can swap into crypto, and you can do whatever you want with it. So Julian gave a really good use case there, and I think that there's a lot of strategy that you can do with loan. And for that, we're staying true to our idea that Cake is a platform for hauling of crypto. So you don't sell a crypto, you can still take out cash flow and do stuff with it. So yeah, timeline wise, it's gonna be hard to say because it also depends on DeFi chain. It also depends on engineering resources and the things that we have. But I mean, the team's also working on it. We have a rough UX design now. I think to be if we want to put a timeline to it, I would say it would be great if you can have it before Christmas. So there'll be a nice Christmas gift for all of us.
Yep, I think that's that. I love that. Yeah, so these are kind of the larger things here. Ben, do you want to add anything on other things the team's working on, things that you kind of see a bit?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, adding on to decentralized loans, what we also want to provide on Cake DeFi is always a bit of the premium service for the users, because we are able to send them an email, we are able to send them a push notification on the mobile app when maybe their loans are close to getting liquidated. So stuff that you cannot do on chain, we are able to do on Cake DeFi. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we also want to focus on that to give the best user experience for our users on these two topics. Yeah, then I can dive a bit into the smaller things that we plan for Q4. So one super major requested feature, I see it almost daily, is how users have insights into their assets and their growth and their rewards, right? So that's actually being worked on right now. Cannot really give a timeline. It's gonna be quite tricky to implement because there's a lot of data, right? We pay out rewards twice a day. There's different products, and our user numbers are growing rapidly. So yeah, but the idea is that we want to have this much more visual. Right now, you have the tax report kind of as a history on what happened to your funds, but we want to have this directly on the mobile app and on the desktop application that you can see how your funds are allocated, in which products on Cake, how they performed historically, yeah, in a few different ways. And we we are going to iterate here, so we also try to figure out what's most appealing to the user. We will get the user feedback on once we have a first version, and yeah, there's probably going to be a two-step or even more steps to improving this asset visualization. Yeah, that's going to be super interesting and cool for Q4. Then yeah, user experience always mentioned. We also want to improve the onboarding experience in general even more. We already have this new cakedefi.com website, but I'm sure we can do even better. Probably we want to explain the products a little bit better on the platform to new users. That's going to be a topic. Then our KYC, we can also improve that as the customer identification, because every user needs to go through this. And yeah, if you want to make this super smooth, we definitely have to improve, which will also benefit the current users because their referrals are going to have an easier time to join our platform. Yeah, then also always a feedback from the community side is if something maybe is down on Cake, or if something is a bit delayed, for example, rewards, how do I know that as a customer, right? You at the moment you need to be in, for example, Telegram channels, or you need to follow our Twitter channel, which is good, but we can do better. So the idea there is to also have push notifications or emails or stuff like this more automated to yeah, to bring information that's valuable to them to the user directly. Of course, you can. We will also want to provide options that you can toggle these off. We don't want to spam you, of course, but just the user has the option to yeah, receive more like live information about the platform on Cake. And yeah, the last thing I want to mention is also we're always working on security. If I compare this to other platforms, we are already quite good if compared to like direct competitors. But we want to have this even better security features. Like right now, we send an email on every login. If you wish that with the IP address in the country. We want to improve our self-services there as well. So, for example, if you lost access to your TUFA, we want to make it very secure and easy for you to recover access to your account. Or if you if there might be suspicious actions on your account, we also want to inform you very early and then give you the option to kind of a self-manage your account, maybe in a case of potential breaches that you can by yourself disable your account temporarily and then resolve with one of our support these problems. Yeah, definitely going to be exciting quarter. Looking forward to it.
Yep, thanks. Definitely looking forward. I think Q4 is gonna be yeah, I mean, it's gonna be an exciting one. We're gonna see a lot of action from the markets in general. We're gonna deliver insanely a lot of things here at Cake. So looking forward to that. Thanks for all the sharing. We're getting closer to the full hour. And I actually need to jump into a meeting, so we're gonna have to cut that here. Couple of things really quick. First, we have about 22 job openings right now. Some of those roles are for JavaScript engineers, C++ engineers, which we pretty much can hire as many as possible as long as these are great people. So I think in total, we would be open in hiring 30 people on the spot right now. We are close to 80 people now, so that would bring the headcount to 110 people. So, hey, if you're listening to this, go to cakedefi.com/jobs and take a look. I think there's almost no sector in the company, like no department where we're not hiring. So it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, in business, in design, in engineering. Like really, we're hiring left and right. We're growing so aggressively. So that's the first thing. Second thing, obviously, if you're listening to this and you're not using Cake yet, hey, what are you waiting for? If not now, then when? Statistics are very clear. Hodlers beat traders all the time, and getting cash flow on top of that is a no-brainer. So do that. Sign up, go to cakedefi.com, become a customer, do your KYC, get the bonus. We have like a sign-up bonus, and then off you go with that. So that's key. And then obviously, last thing, I hope you're here following us on Twitter if you're listening to this live, or subscribe to the podcast where you're gonna get the recording. We share this on Twitter as well. So yeah, then you're not missing out on any of those. We're doing them every week on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, I hope you're tuning in. One small thing at the end, a small group of the Cake team that's Europe-based is gonna be in Cologne this weekend. We're going to post a couple of details. I think they're going to organize a small get-together. It's not like a meetup or something. It's really just a get-together on the weekend in Cologne, so in Germany. So if you are in the area, just follow or watch on social. We're going to post some of the details there. Would definitely be cool to meeting some of you in person and kind of connecting. So yeah, yeah, that's it. With that, hey, have a really nice Tuesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much, Fabio, u-zyn, Ben, for yeah, being part and helping, and everyone else. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll talk next week. Thank you all. Bye-bye.